Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Kayla Sierra, hosted by yours truly. Happy February, and to my Black and Brown viewers, happy Black History Month. If you guys remember, in my What I Read in January video, I talked about my February TBR and what you guys can expect, and that I would be supporting Black authors. And while I would love to just go into detail about these books, this video is already gonna be a whirlwind. So I'm going to include a photo of my February TBR that is already posted on my Instagram so you guys can see and hopefully support these Black authors as well. I know this month I only have 4 books. It really just happened that way. I was hoping to do more, but as we know, February is the shortest month of the year, so it just made sense to only do 4 books, and I've already finished one. I read Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, and I'm going to show you guys what I did. And I'll preface this by saying I've already read this book. I read it in 2023, I believe, and I had only like highlighted and kind of written in it, and now I don't know if you guys can like just truly tell how many tabs I have. And as always, it's just glorious. I'm gonna be so completely honest with you guys. It was really hard to decide what I wanted to talk about for today's video. I know I've done plenty of book reviews, but I just thought for once, like, I want to try out a new topic. I have a lot of things I want to do as far as videos, but then also stuff on my Instagram. So I was like, I have to choose something. And you know, Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and I know, I get it. It's kind of a sour day for some of us who aren't in relationships or just don't have as much luck in love, but that's okay because we can experience love in so many different ways. It's not just romantic. So I decided, what better way to celebrate Valentine's Day with you guys than to share my favorite fictional couples? And I've narrowed it down to 4 books. So without further ado, we're gonna get into my favorite OTPs, which also stands for One True Pairings. Right now, these couples are in no particular order. First up, we have Ella and Beckett in The Last Letter, Violet and Xaden in Fourth Wing, Winter and Theo in Reckless, and last but not least, Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. For all these couples, I will be discussing my favorite parts of their romance, if it's believable, and how I will rewrite their story. I'm going to start off with Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, just because I haven't talked about this book a lot, and it actually really is one of my favorite books of all time. My favorite parts about Angel and Michael would probably just have to be the level of trust that they had to build within each other, because this book is based off of the biblical story of Hosea, and if you're familiar with that, you'll know and understand. But basically, Angel is a prostitute. She grew up being around it. Her mom was one, and so that's all she's ever really known, especially regarding love. So she's, of course, an adult now, and Michael sees her, and he proposes to her without knowing anything about her. He found out that she was a prostitute and was like, God, this is the one you want me to marry. Like, I should have prayed a little bit differently. I should have been a bit more specific on what I wanted in a wife, but this is who you want me to be with. Like, I got you, God. And so he goes to her and he proposes a couple times, and she's like, no, like, get out of my room. Long story short, I'm gonna bring it in. They end up getting married, but Angel leaves him 3 times because she has a hard time accepting the fact that she's not in this life that she's become accustomed to anymore, but then also not really feeling worthy of Michael's love. He's been pouring into her and sharing with her the love of God and how forgiving he is, and she can't fathom how somebody so loving and someone even her mom believed in could forgive the sins that she has committed. So she, like I said, she runs 3 times, and he goes back for her 2 times, but that 3rd time he doesn't go after her because he knows, and God has spoken to him, that Angel has to fully forgive herself and allow God's forgiveness to come over her before she can fully accept Michael's love. And that's what happens. I hate to give so much of the story, but even as I'm explaining it, it doesn't touch what's within these pages. The way Francine Rivers just, she handles it with such grace. And I cried at the end of reading it. My mom and my sister both cried once I got them to read it. And the movie did come out. I was a little disappointed with it, but that's another topic for another day. Michael and Angel truly love each other. And through their relationship, both of them having a newfound and strengthened relationship with God also, it just inspired me. This book takes place in the 1950s. If it had been 2025 or just within the most recent years of 2020 and up, it probably wouldn't have been as hard for Angel and Michael to finally find each other and be a happy couple like they are at the end of this book. Within that time, women were only expected to be wives and to be cooks, you know, the traditional things that were placed upon us back then. And so Angel didn't have really any other options than what Michael was giving her, and she didn't want to be chained down to a man. She's always just been used by them. So then when meeting Michael, it was kind of like, yeah, you're selling me all these good things, but when I open the bag, what's going to be inside? Like, it's a pretty box, or I'm gonna use bags, that's what I said. I'm a pretty bag, and it's decorated all nice and fancy and girly, but when I open it, is it just gonna be some trash in there? And so in that case, it was truly just understandable because she had been through so much, and she had plenty of trust issues. But the way Michael really just then had to come within himself and be like, I can't change her. I can't make her be this person that I know that she can be. She has to decide it and want it for herself. And letting her go was so hard on him. But it was what Angel needed. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say, because they're a real, genuine couple. I truly believe their relationship is believable, and I wouldn't rewrite this story. I would take it how it's written 100 times over. There's nothing I would change in here. But if we're going to talk about changing, we're going to talk about the movie. Just like, I have to, just like a little bit. Bear with me, guys. I would make the movie, excuse me. I would rewrite the script more so like the book, because I think there's a missing depth of their relationship that isn't portrayed as well in the movie as it is in the book, which I'm not sure whose fault that is, but we're not gonna point fingers and be like, and play the blame game. That's just what I would do. I would rewrite the script to highlight more of the conflict and conversations and things that Angel and Michael went through as a couple, but then individually. That's what I would do. But that's for the movie, not the book. So I guess it doesn't count. Next is going to be Winter and Theo from Reckless. This has to be one of my favorite contemporary romances. But then also for a long while, I personally have considered Winter and Theo my favorite couple of all time. We're going to see what that's like at the end of the video. But I love them down. At the beginning of the book, Winter is married to a Class A douchebag, and Theo is having fun being single, bachelor, hotshot bull rider. I have to describe Winter and Theo meeting for the first time as a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The way they immediately just had like that banter with each other, but then also when they spoke at the bar and they were just able to relate to each other and just open up was incredibly beautiful. And you know, they spent the night together. And 9 months later, Winter gives birth to her baby girl, Vivi, and doesn't tell anyone who the father is. She tries to tell Theo. She does. But the message doesn't get relayed to him. And she believes that he wants nothing to do with her or the baby. But that's not the truth at all. As soon as Theo found out about Vivi, he was like, oh, this is my child and you're my baby mama or whatever. You're both about to be taken care of. Like, I'm a father. Which brings me to my favorite part of their romance. Both Theo and Winter have these preconceived notions about them and how people perceive them and how they think that they act. Winter is regarded as cold, bitchy, and just not a nice person, while Theo is thought of as immature, playboy, and not responsible. They both proved everybody wrong in this book. Winter, growing up with the circumstances of their relationship with her father and her mother and her sister Summer, it was almost not her fault in how things turned out. She just adapted to her surroundings the best way that she could, and lo and behold, ended up being standoffish and yes, a little bit cold, but it was to protect herself and then also her sister. While yes, Theo was enjoying being single and not necessarily having responsibilities, he wanted to take on more. He didn't want to be known as some rowdy bull rider who didn't take anything seriously, because that wasn't truly who he was to his core, and it seemed like no one else was believing that or seeing that in him. So him and Winter's relationship coming together and just being able to prove everybody wrong, but then proving themselves wrong and being able to see within themselves that they could be more than what people have thought and believed them to be, because it was slow comings, which is probably what I would rewrite. I would rewrite every single time Winter was in this book denying that Theo had feelings for her, and how she was just like, oh, he could never see me in that way. Why would he want me? I don't look good. I had a baby and da 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 da. And I was very much yelling at the book, and I was like, girl, he's obsessed with you. Theo was literally just being respectful and trying to go at her pace, not wanting to push any buttons, and actually really expressing himself and letting her know how he was feeling, but was also trying not to step on her toes as Vivi's mom, because she was already like, oh no, like, I appreciate your help and I know you want to be in her life, but like, I can do it. Like, I can do it all. You don't have to worry. And no. And I would also probably change Theo and a certain comment that he made to Winter, because he had never regarded her as the comment that everybody has really done since the beginning. Even before their story, people refer to Winter as the Ice Queen, and he says it once, I believe in a jokingly manner, but he still shouldn't have said it, and it really sets Winter off. He should have known not to joke like that, but then also he said something else dumb when Winter's husband was like, oh, we're gonna get a DNA test to see who's the actual father, and Theo being dumb and being jealous, and even though he knew he was the daddy, Theo was like, oh, I guess, yeah, we'll see if I even am her father. Excuse me? That set me off so badly, because you know how much Winter loves you and how much you love this baby. There's no doubt in your mind that this is your child. You're just upset because Robert's over here being messy and he got in your head, and now y'all not talking. The miscommunication, I would rewrite that. No more miscommunication. That being said, I wholeheartedly believe their relationship is believable. I love every second of their relationship besides those little tidbits. Just seeing Winter and also Theo come into their own with being new parents and being in this relationship, the ability to be themselves and find love and comfort and security with each other was nice to see, because it proved that their chemistry and their attraction wasn't just physical, it was heartfelt and it was true. Next up is Ella and Beckett in The Last Letter. I know when I've mentioned this book, I've talked about how heartbreaking it was and just how disrespectful what happens in the book is, but and also the love between Ella and Beckett and also Ella's kids is incredibly stunning And it's also emotional to read kids understanding love and creating such a bond with this man who is not their father, but accepting him and loving him and wanting to be around him and basically considering him as their dad without there even having been a relationship between Ella and Beckett yet. Ugh. Kids are so incredibly innocent, and so I think being able to watch them love so wholeheartedly when they really don't understand love, they just feel it, and they do it without any boundaries. In the very first video that I posted in the book review on The Last Letter, I talked about how Ella was married to the twins' father, and he left her and the kids basically once she said that she was pregnant. So they've never really known who their dad was. And she's very standoffish when it comes to love because she's been so hurt in the past, romantically, but then also with family. Everyone she's loved has left her, so she protects herself and has a wall up and is like, I'm not falling in love. I have my kids and that's all I need. And Mr. Beckett comes in like a wrecking ball and crashes them walls down. Since I have discussed this book before in a book review, I highly recommend going to that video and watching it. What I will say, one of my favorite parts about their romance would have to be how dedicated Beckett was to Ella and her kids, and then also how Ella was able to grieve her brother and also accept Beckett with all of his baggage. The two actually things I would rewrite for their story are two things I'm not sure I can say because I really don't want to spoil it. Even though when I first talked about this book, that was in July of last year, and you guys haven't gone and read it yet. So if I were to say it, it's not really a spoiler. I've given y'all plenty of time to go and buy this book, and you haven't yet? Crazy. But I'm not going to. Anybody who's read this book will probably know the two things that should not have happened in this book that happens. I would take those out immediately. Without question. I don't care if the book doesn't necessarily make sense anymore without those two things happening. I would take them out and I would live happily ever after. Last but certainly not least, we have Violet and Xaden in Fourth Wing. My favorite part of Violet and Xaden's relationship is a twist between the fact that they're enemies to lovers and also their relationship is very much forbidden love. Because Xaden is bad news. Her sister warns her against interacting with him, and even, her friend Dane is very much like, stay away from Xaden. And Violet does not listen. Violet is very headstrong and is like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and somehow always finds herself in trouble or around Xaden, and they end up cadoodling, not in that way, but chit-chatting and just being enemies before the lovers part. When they shared their first kiss, it was building up for so long. Violet was very much ready to climb this man like a tree, because her words, not mine, she said, climb him like a tree. And Xaden, while we don't have his point of view, at least at that point of the story, it's obvious that his attraction was growing just like hers was for him. And by the end of the book, because Xaden and Violet's dragons are bonded together, then in that way their lives are bonded, so if one of them dies, the other one could potentially die. Some people might see that as toxic or something that the other person could hold against the other person, but that's not necessarily the case. It's obvious that Xaden is fighting his feelings for Violet, not accepting them, and Violet's very much like, you're not gonna touch me again until you can finally say, that you like me just like I like you. Violet set her boundaries. She was like, if you want me, you're gonna have to be honest, not only with yourself, but with me. And Xaden does finally come around to it. So I just love their banter. Their banter is amazing from start to finish, even in the other two books, because of course we have Iron Flame and now Onyx Storm that just came out. So being able to just watch their relationship grow as they are young people in the circumstances and the world that they're in is so beyond what their responsibilities should be, and they're having to deal with such horrible aspects of war and having to fight and just, you know, physically and mentally, emotionally just giving your all into this thing when we could be living normal lives is definitely hard, but they are down bad for each other. Everyone knows Violet is Xaden's girl, and everyone knows that Xaden is Violet's man. I definitely believe that their relationship is believable. If I had to rewrite something in this story, it doesn't necessarily have to do with Violet and Xaden's relationship, even though it does relate in some ways. I wouldn't have made Violet as frail as she is. There's nothing wrong with being a quote-unquote weaker protagonist, but when you're breaking bones, tearing ligaments, and bruising on every page, it's just like, what hope do we have for you? And then for you to be paired with like the most ruthless, strongest, most powerful wing leader in the book, the irony is a little like, really? It ends up being okay. Like, it's not horrible and it doesn't seem fake. It's just annoying because Violet is extremely strong. What she lacks in physical strength, she makes up in mental and intellectual strength. I was gonna say emotional, but sis got lied to once and she was like, I don't love you anymore, and no one has time for that. I just would have given her something more. Like, she was an excellent knife thrower. Like, she was flexible, but the fact that sis, like, her bones and stuff, like, when I say she was weak, and I understand the purpose of doing that, but I don't think it's so crucial to the story to where it has to stay like that. So I would definitely rewrite that. And I don't think Xaden would love her any different, or it would change their relationship. The story itself would definitely be different, but their love between each other wouldn't change based upon that fact. Now comes the hard part. I'm going to rank all of these couples from my favorite to least favorite. There's nothing in this world that can make me hate any of these characters. This is purely just for entertainment purposes. My number one couple is definitely Angel and Michael. Number 2 is Winter and Theo. Number 3 is Ella and Beckett. And number 4 is Violet and Xaden. Considering Fourth Wing is a part of a series, it doesn't necessarily count with what I'm about to say. But if the authors of these books were to decide to further any of these stories, I would 100% be so ecstatic. I would be right there at Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or any bookstore and just be so ready to find out what these couples are up to and where life has taken them since we last saw them. One of the funnest parts about reading is these people aren't real, they're fictional characters, but to us readers, they are real and they are feeling, thinking humans just like us, and we've become a part of their world, even though of course they don't know that we exist. So being able to see them at another stage, because we are rooting for them, is great. And just like that, we are at the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want to know you guys' favorite book couples, so leave them down in the comments below, or you can put them on my Valentine's Day post on Instagram. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and share this with all your friends. I have been Kayla Sierra, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!